What is a sword? It is a line. On one side of the line is life. The other, death. Steel is pure and impure. And these together, there can be greatness.
Yeah, man. Look at how it slices these tomatoes right after cutting a can.
Welcome to Cordkillers Reckoning. The world of entertainment is turned upside down, and we're just trying to find out how to watch what we want, where we want, whenever we want. I'm Tom Merritt. Where's good stuff, Brian?
Oh my God, I assume it's on the other side of this line? Explain this line to me, Bryce.
That was a trailer for Blue Eye Samurai. The season is streaming on Netflix November 3rd. It's from Michael Green, who wrote on Logan and Blade Runner 2049, as well as Amber Noizumi. It's set in 17th century Japan, and it's not like a supernatural show necessarily. It's about this woman, Mizu, who becomes a samurai to get revenge on her father. She's got blue eyes, and in that period, you're looked at as kind of an outsider if you have blue eyes. So she's on revenge to find who her foreigner father is. So that's coming in about a week, less than a week.
I'll tell you.
You know who has blue eyes but is not a demon, Brian?
Well, I know the first part. The jury's out on the second.
It's definitely not either one of us. Allison Sheridan from the Soulcast joining us. Welcome, Allison.
Hello, hello, hello. And I don't even have blue eyes. I think they're green. I'm not sure.
Are they green? They're green, the blue-green. I can't tell the difference anymore.
Separate side story. My wife and I took very up-close photos of our eyes, and we were shocked because she has spent her entire life describing her eyes as hazel. I have always described mine as moss green. We were unable to tell the difference between our eyes.
To have converged. Wow.
Eyes photographed close up are cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. That's one of the best parts of going to the eye doctor. Well, without eyes, you can't watch TV. And if you want to watch TV, you're going to have to get yourself a supply of good things to watch. That's why every week we go on a supply run.
Supply run, supply run, supply run.
Now, I tell you what, we go out on a supply run, we get a bunch of teen romances to watch, and the kids just complain. Here's what I'm talking about. A team at UCLA's Center for Scholars and Storytellers surveyed 1,500 people between the ages of 10 and 24, about 100 people in each age bracket. They asked those between ages 13 and 24 what they thought about sexy content, romancy, sexy TV shows and movies. And of those kids that they asked that question, 51.5% said they'd like to see more content depicting friendships and platonic relationships. Enough of the romancy schmancy, please. 47.5% reported that sex is not necessary to the majority of TV show and movie plots. 44.3% of youth felt that romance in media is overused, and 39% would like to see more depictions of aromantic and or asexual characters. Brian?
I have fairly nuanced and I would like to think in-depth thoughts on this. So I'd actually like to hear from Allison first on this before I chime in.
Well, I keep thinking of this one Steven Seagal movie I saw that to me was the perfect amount of romance I want in a movie. I forget what it was. It was some mining thing that blew up this whole mountain and everything. And at the very beginning, he's got his girlfriend and he shoves her into like a bathroom of a house and he closes the door. And then the whole story plot goes along. Everything explodes, shrapnel, people dying and everything. At the very end, he rips open the door. She comes running out. He hugs her and goes, pat, pat, on her back, and that's it. And they part again. And I was like, that's how much romance I want in that.
Wait, that was a roller coaster, by the way, because I was about to think that Allison was into some advanced romance there for a second when he shoves her into the bathroom. The jokey answer to this, Tom, I think, is just porn. Kids have porn nowadays. But beyond that, it's not just that they have. It's not just that younger people have access to explicit content, they also have access to explicit descriptions of healthy sexual relationships. It's also that most of them are under assumed identities, and it's a big deal if you get doxxed. So they have privacy in a way that was not possible 30, 40 years ago. They also have honest speaking relationships where everybody stays in their rooms. And it is, and I have been in the room when 2 out of my 3 children have like really bristled. You could tell that they were actively no longer enjoying whatever content we were watching because it was expressively sensual or sexual. Now, on the flip side, in the before times, before there was the internet, you had to try to appeal to many different demographics at once, which is why you had these screwball late 70s, early 80s comedies where, apropos of nothing, a woman would take their shirt off. And that is because they knew that 12 to 16-year-old boys were going to be watching this, and this was their one moment to see a part of the body that they have never seen before or whatever. And with the availability of that nowadays, that only becomes awkward next to your parents. Whereas when I was 12, I'd rather see it and be next to an adult just so I could at least see it than see it next to an adult, than not see it at all. And whereas I believe that we live in an age of choice and of higher privacy than ever. And I think a run-on effect of that is, plus also there's the whole Zoomer generation appears to be sexually developing slower than previous generations to it, and so on.
Well, I wanted to get to that second part there because I think you included it at the end, but I was wondering, there are a lot of folks who think that it's just sexual content in general that younger people are not interested in, whether it's on TV or alone on the internet or anywhere, that it's just not something people are as interested in as they used to be. That's pop psychology. I don't have anything to back that up, but I've seen that premise put forward.
So I have a question though. From what you read, I haven't read the study. Do we know this is any different than it would have been 20 years ago? We don't know
Yes.
that it's changed. We just know what they're saying now. They might have always wanted more platonic relationships and less sex.
They've been doing this study since 2001. So this is the lowest response that they've had in a long time.
I've been doing this study since 1987, and I can verify.
Well, no, I'm just saying the study itself has been asking people in this age range, every year for a while. So they're comparing it to previous years, and it's been going down or going up.
Okay.
Depending on.
Okay. I didn't see that.
Yeah, my hypothesis, Allison, is quite simply that there are more alternatives to develop healthily in your teenage, in your awkward teenage years. And during that time, nowadays, of all the places to encounter things next to your parents or your friends or wherever is not in general where you would want to do it.
That's an interesting theory.
Yeah. I mean, I think that makes sense, right? It makes logical sense. But I think what we're finding is that this study brings up some questions that need further investigation, right? Is what are the other viewing habits? And, in a survey, you're less likely to get people to be honest about those necessarily, but is there a way to find out, is Brian's premise true? Or is the other premise that this age group is less interested in it? I would throw out another theory. This is just a theory, is that we all grew up, the three of us, and to a lesser extent Bryce, but definitely the three of us.
Are you just gonna let him say that about you?
I'm gonna let him finish. I don't know what he's saying yet.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
yeah, exactly. We grew up in the wake of the 60s revolution or during the 60s revolution. Pretty sure Bryce didn't. That was reacting against a more restrictive culture, against a culture that had cracked down on movies in the 20s and was not allowing people on TV to even share the same bed, such as in I Love Lucy. And so I think we have an assumption that yes, removing those restrictions is good for society. That's we've been making progress in having a better handle and being more mature about things and being more open about sexual things, and that maybe the very youngest and much younger than Bryce have only grown up in a world where everything has been super permissive, and they're like, yeah, that's a little too much.
I can see where you might be going with that, Tom. Think about the statistics about alcoholism in different countries based on when the drinking age is. We don't let anybody drink until they're 21 in theory, and we have a lot of trouble with alcohol. But if you look at countries like France, it's like the drinking age, I think they said, was 5, unless you're at home, and then you can drink before 5. Age, not PM. And
yeah, I was thinking PM for a second.
Maybe it's that rebellion
if you're 5 and drinking before it's 5, you might be French.
I don't know, but it's along those same lines, right? If you're under something real restrictive and then it gets let loose, then you react and want a lot of it or whatever. And then now when it's like, well, it's easily available, well, okay, that's enough. We could back off a little bit.
Bryce, I would like very much to hear your perspective on this because you're younger.
Okay, thank you. I see this. I feel like I am of a similar stroke here. Like I don't really get anything out of I don't know, cookie cutter romance subplots, or the heroine who's just kind of around to be arm candy, or a prize or a damsel or anything. Like I see stuff like that as like a sign of really really simple storytelling, really, like maybe too simple or stereotypy, cliche,
predictable, cliche. Yeah.
And so like there are so many shows and series out there that really do try to do different things, try to move beyond just action and a romance subplot. And there's so much choice now that if you didn't need to be crammed down your throat all the time, then you may not choose to watch as much romance or what have you. I mean, I'm a gay man, and there's not exactly a lot of media out there for me, and a lot of what's out there is very cookie cutter, and so it's kind of a bummer to be like, I would also like material made for me, and also I want it to be good, and I don't think that's too much to ask for.
Well, so let me throw this out there, and apologies if this is too Freudian for everyone, but like 1982 on Showtime. They had the Adventures of Huckleberry Finn or Tom Sawyer or one of those or whatever. And there's a scene where they're depicting what I believe are, early teenage boys swimming. And at that time in the 1800s, you were not putting on bathing suits. You were just jumping around naked. So I watched naked boys going around. And it mattered not one whit to me.
It doesn't sound sexual.
It doesn't. Yeah. That's correct.
Right.
Equally not sexual was when I was in my 18 to 22-year-old period, where we would go to my parents' house and we would all make jokes about, like, because, we didn't want to go up and go get our bathing suits. We would, as we put it, shed the yoke of textile oppression and just, skinny dip, jump into the lake or whatever. Also not sexual or whatever. I wonder how any of that would read to this same crowd that doesn't want to see sensual or sexual content in their fictional media. I wonder if it's been electrified and separated or something. Just pure speculation on my part. I don't know.
Yeah, I get the sense that there might be a little bit of everything we're saying. There's a little bit to Brian's argument that availability has meant that viewers are like, yeah, I don't need that in the Stranger Things story. I don't need that in this, space adventure. There's probably a little bit of it's so available everywhere. I'm kind of overwhelmed and I don't want to deal with it. There does seem to be, for whatever reason, just a little bit of a lack of interest in certainly in some cultures in sexual activity in general. So it's probably not one size fits all, but a little bit of all of these theories that we're putting out there. I mean, Allison, I know you were saying in the chat that you loved watching Love Boat as a teen, right? And
Right.
like, you don't see that now. Like, you don't see kids that are interested in that sort of thing. That sort of story that's the Hallmark Channel. That's for the older people.
So maybe we don't really know which way this would go in these are kind of two different topics. There's sexual explicit, there's romance, and there's just having platonic. But I mean, I've always thought that the sweet spot was a little bit of sexual tension, but it's platonic right now, but you're always hoping the romance will be there. That's the one that always gets me. I don't know what the kids like these days other than what it says in this report.
The other things in this report that struck me as interesting, 56% of adolescents, and this includes the 10-year-olds, 10 to 24, prefer original content over franchises and remakes, and twice as many adolescents prefer binge releases to weekly drops.
Is that different than regular people?
Actually, I'll vouch for team weekly drops. Maybe not week over week single episodes, but my favorite type of staggered release is kind of like what they're doing with Our Flag Means Death, where it's like there'll be 3 at the beginning, and then just a couple, and then maybe we all hang around for one end finale at the end.
Yeah, I'm also I'm looking at what Supernova Girl said is that kids generally never liked the romance parts in the movies. Too boring. They want comedy and action. And so I wonder how much of that is like, yeah, we don't want the franchises. That's what our parents like. We want new stuff. We want different things. Maybe it's just what kids like you said, Allison.
What do they mean by not franchises?
So in other words, like Marvel or Stranger Things or Harry Potter, those sort of like, we've got lots of things in the same shared universe, right? Versus a story that is not part of anything else, not a sequel to anything else, et cetera.
The question that they asked the teens was, Hollywood has recently made a lot of content that's already made on an existing piece of media, in addition to the usual original content. What kind of content do you like to see in TV shows and movies between original content, franchises, adaptations, and remakes?
Yeah,
that's kind of a leading question.
I was about to say the same thing. That might be just a little bit loaded because I think that many folks who are in an emerging artistic phase of their life, I mean, they already know what team they have to declare their allegiance to.
Yeah. And Daniel J. Newman is saying, I think some teens may have been untruthful in their answers. That's why you do 1,500 people. People are generally less untruthful than you think on purpose, but there might be some subconscious things going on. So that is always a problem with self-reported studies, right? It's not entirely objective.
But also like
teenagers not saying the truth to adults doing a survey.
I mean, yeah, they'll be more honest than you want to think. And if you have enough people in the survey, it should wash it out. But they also just it may not even be intentional. It just may be kind of an urge to, well, let me answer the way I want to be versus what I actually know is true. Or they may not even be self-aware, right? I certainly wasn't at that age.
Well, I will vouch for, and this is just me telling on myself, but it's like, it really seems like 40 years ago, it was automatic that all kids lied to all adults at all times. And now I don't feel that nearly as much. Allison, does that track with you as well?
Well, I haven't had a teenager around me in a long time, but 50% on my children, one of them would tell me everything and one would tell me nothing, but I don't know whether either one of them were lying.
Well, that's the dynamic with parents is different than the dynamic with a survey person, which, and I'm not saying it's one way or the other, but it's certainly a different dynamic.
True.
Really, the only way to be sure, Brian, that you have an honest exchange of information with people is to ask them for money.
Yeah. You know why? It's called honest money for a reason, Tom. What do people want? They want to go to bed at night having earned an honest $35 an episode. Now, no, we can't all achieve that. We can't even achieve $13.50 of honest money per episode. But some of us can at least get $3.50 per episode by going to patreon.com/Cordkillers. That's where you keep us loud, live, and independent as we increase our quest to bring you the very best of content that's out there in this crazy, mixed up, upside down world where we may have, not saying we did it, somebody killed the Cords, and we have two quests. Number one, find the real killers. Number two, watch whatever we want and bring you the best of it.
Indeed, indeed. It is through your support on Patreon that we are able to go far and wide to find things to say, here, this might be worth your time. Take a look. That's what we do in the search party. If you're going to wait to see Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon on Apple TV Plus, you don't really need this information. But if you're going to the theater to see it, because you just got to see Leonardo DiCaprio up there on the big screen, you respect Martin Scorsese and you want to see it on the big screen, keep in mind, it's 3 hours and 26 minutes long. And a few theaters around the world, including one in Colorado, decided probably people need a break midway through that. You know, Lawrence of Arabia gave you intermission. So did Dr. Zhivago. So they did it. They instituted an intermission in Killers of the Flower Moon. And the studio went after them. They said, no. That's a violation of the agreement. You are not allowed to put an intermission. That is not the way we intended this movie to be shown. In fact, editor Thelma Schoonmaker objected to intermissions in the press. She said, no, that shouldn't be happening. Scorsese himself previously has said, it's 3 hours, but come on. You can sit in front of the TV and watch something for 5 hours. There are many people who watch theater for 3.5 hours. Those are real actors on stage. You can't get up and walk around. You give that respect. Give cinema some respect. Ryan, should it be wrong for them to do an intermission in a movie?
Tom, I got two flavors. You want Steel Man or Straw Man?
Let's steal this first.
Okay, Steel Man would be, this is a slippery slope. This is, if you allow individual displayers of stuff, what's to stop them from deciding that they're going to chop it into 5 segments and they're going to have a local hilarious morning DJ give commentary in between each of these sections. They have to preserve the quality of the presentation. They drew a hard line and we just got out of a strike. We really don't need people messing with that right now.
Yeah. All right. Allison, are you on the Steel Man side or would you like to hear Brian's Straw Man?
My favorite or least favorite word in the world is should. You should sit there and do this. You should do that. Well, you know what? I can't sit still for 3 hours and 20 minutes. It's on my nerves that movies are over 2 hours. But we stop and play 18 times during a 2-hour movie at home. So there's no way I'd sit there for 3 hours and 26 minutes. In fact, I would see that and I would say, I'm totally not going to the theater at all. I would,
you know what?
Maybe watch
Dead
it.
here in our chat room is saying, I was an usher in performing arts. We had intermissions for the live actor thing. So,
Allison,
yeah.
Here's the beauty of the word should. It cuts both ways because just like I agree with you, don't tell me, Martin Scorsese, what I should or how I should enjoy your show. However, you get to use the word should to say, oh, I'm sorry, I should be able to go pee and not have to hold my bladder for 3.5 hours. I should.
And I can. Because I can wait until it comes on Apple TV Plus.
Wait, but you're not going to sit there and hold it for 3.5 hours.
No, I'm saying I can make that choice to pause and go pee and come back.
You do have a choice in this case. You can wait for it to come to Apple TV.
Well, and this is the other side of the argument is, look, Gandhi had an intermission. Anything longer, like they were planned breaks, and they're sensible because they create a more pleasant experience. It's stupid to expect everybody to superhumanly, purge their bowels and meditate and watch with all fullness your presentation of whatever your story is. That's dumb.
I do respect Martin Scorsese. I don't know the man, but I've seen much of his work. He's very good. I respect his impulse to get people to come to the theater. That's what he fell in love with. That's what he makes his movies for, is to be seen on the big screen with the full sound and people around you. I respect all of that. But there is a fine tradition going back centuries of giving people a break to get up and stretch their legs and take a pee. And I don't think when you're trying to convince people to come back to the theater, when you're trying to say this is a better experience, trust me, you're going to love it, that you should then berate them and say, and no, you don't get to have a pee break because I said so. Like you're working against your own best interest there, I feel like.
I know what he needs to do. He needs to work with these theaters, not change any of the rules, but just tell them they're not allowed to sell any food or drink. Right? Because then you won't have to get up to pee.
Yeah, and then the theaters go broke. Yeah, that's a great.
Allison,
no place to
Scorsese, here's what you should do.
Oh,
demand the word "should" on purpose.
All right, let's go to another auteur. David Fincher told The Guardian that he has considered making a sequel to The Social Network. If you recall, that was a movie about Mark Zuckerberg and the founding of Facebook. Fincher said, Aaron, meaning Aaron Sorkin, who wrote The Social Network screenplay, Aaron and I have talked about it, but that's a can of worms. In fact, Sorkin has remarked on this before. Deadline pointed out that Sorkin said in an interview in 2021, I think what has been going on with Facebook these last few years is a story very much worth telling, and there is a way to tell it as a follow-up to The Social Network, and that's as much as I know. So it sounds like Sorkin is ready to write it, but Fincher is unsure whether this is a good time or not.
I'll tell you what the problem is. They don't know how it's going to end yet.
That's right. I feel like you're right. Yeah. They're
well, like, I mean,
let's just wait and see if it falls apart or not.
Oh man, I always leave room for a redemption story because otherwise it's like, okay, I got a great pitch. It's called The Empire Strikes Back. Everything's terrible for the rebellion. Everything's getting destroyed. How does it end? Don't know yet. It's still being attacked by the Empire.
It
Yeah.
could go either way. We don't know.
There are some places where you could end it as a sort of like, it was just Facebook, and then Zuckerberg decided to start buying other companies, buying Instagram. Maybe, the acquisition of Instagram becomes the end of the movie when he decides, yes, I'm going to make it a big empire instead of keeping it as a small success. But I don't know if that's as compelling because that's not what people want to see. They want to see the antitrust lawsuits and getting sued by the EU and Cambridge Analytica and all that stuff.
That's interesting because some of the things you said I think are in line with what I was thinking. Like it feels like we're near the end of the second act. We are at the lowest. More people have a more dour opinion of social networks writ large. Like everybody agrees they're cigarettes now. I'm very curious what the third act redemption arc is for the social media writ large.
Maybe that's the difference. Maybe Sorkin is saying, I want to tell the story of Facebook from the end of the social network to the 2016 election, when suddenly everyone started turning against social networks and blaming them for all the problems, right? Which is kind of the watermark for that attitude change. And Fincher may be like, yeah, but we're going to need a third film to follow it up if we're going to make that work. And I don't know
put an
that
intermission between them.
Yeah, no intermission. Well, this is Fincher, not Scorsese. If they get Scorsese for the third one, then yeah, it's going to be 5 hours long with no intermission.
But there is something to the weird parallels. And yes, you could just dunk on Zuckerberg. If you want to make it a dual 2-movie thing, you could say that, his head got too big and he screwed up Oculus or what have you. But if you wanted to make it a 3-act thing, then it would be, there's strange and mysterious parallels, like how proud was social media in general for their role in the Arab Spring? How not happy with themselves were they in their role with January 6th? What's the third act at this point? I think quite simply, they're like, yeah, we know we have a story of these times. We just have to wait for it to play out to know how to write it.
And calling it The Social Network is kind of interesting. If it was The Social Network Part 2, would you wonder, is this going to be about the demise of Twitter? What is the subject of that?
Yeah, I like it. The first movie is called The Social Network. Second movie is called a social network.
The third
And then
one is called The Social Network Rides Again.
Return of the
Armageddon.
social network. All right. Send us your plot treatments and we'll forward them to David Fincher, cordkillers@gmail.com. The Doctor Who 60th anniversary specials have a date. These are the ones that will star David Tennant reprising his role as the Doctor, and they will begin November 25th. There are 3 special episodes before Ncuti Gatwa takes over as the Doctor next year. The Star Beast premieres November 25th. Wild Blue Yonder comes out December 2nd, and The Giggle premieres December 9th. If you're in the UK, watch them on BBC. Elsewhere, watch them on Disney+.
Tom, will you be okay if I just wait for you to tell me whether or not I should watch these?
Yeah, sure. No, I'm happy to provide that service for you.
Okay.
Allison,
Don't worry,
are you a
the
Doctor
internet
Who
will
fan?
clearly answer that for you
Yeah, that
with
too.
a definitive opinion.
Do you ride with the Doctor, Allison?
So we're not very good Doctor Who fans. We watched a few episodes when it was David Tennant and loved him, but then never really got into it. And then we watched all of the Jodie Whittaker ones and loved it. So now we look back at like, oh man, yeah, our favorite was David Tennant, even though we only saw like maybe 6 of them. So we'll definitely watch it. Sounds like fun.
Yeah, this is meant to bring you back, right? Well, even though you did watch Jodie Whittaker, so you're not really gone, but this is meant to say, hey, we know a lot of you loved when Russell T Davies was in charge and David Tennant was the Doctor. Well, we've put Russell back in charge. But instead of just giving you a brand new Doctor, how about we bring David Tennant back for a few episodes just to ease you back in before we give you a new Doctor? So yeah, I'll be watching these 3 too. I'm actually really excited. David Tennant was amazing. I loved him as the Doctor. And I know there's going to be a lot of fun little Easter eggs for fans of that era of the Doctor Who reboot, probably a bunch of Easter eggs for the original Doctor Who as well, because Russell T Davies is a huge fan of that. They got Chris Chibnall and Stephen Moffat to help Russell promote this. I don't know if you've seen, there's some sit-down chats called The 3 Producers, where they all 3 talk about their various perspectives on producing Doctor Who. So if you're a Doctor Who fan, I think you're going to have a blast with these and the documentary that's coming out and all the other content around all of this. FX released a trailer for season 5 of Fargo, starring Juno Temple. If that name rings a bell, she played a character in Ted Lasso.
Keely.
And John Hamm, if that name rings a bell, he played a character in the Mad Men show. It's set in Minnesota and North Dakota, 2019. So we're kind of back to near present. And premieres on FX and Hulu November 21st.
Tom, I must admit, I took a moment to consider whether or not I even wanted to watch the trailer, but I realized that they're probably going to be judicious and just give us a flavor and a context and a location and not actually spoil any plots, because so far this TV show is batting 1,000 for me. I have never experienced a bad season of Fargo. I cannot wait to discuss it in more great detail. It's excellent.
I was afraid to ever start Fargo. Yeah, I love the movie, and I never watched any of the TV show because I was afraid it would be sort of like, I really liked Saw 1, but I didn't want more Saw.
Yeah, no, this is definitely not that. Imagine, I can't do a Saw metaphor for this, but basically take what you loved about Fargo and then make a TV show that elicits that without trying to replicate it.
But none of the actors.
None of the actors.
I mean,
none of the characters. It's not trying to be the movie. It's just like, you know what? I bet some other crazy stuff happens in the same location. Let's explore what other people have done in Fargo.
Maybe we should give it a try.
It's way good, and I think you can watch any of the seasons in any order you want, because they skip decades. Like imagine it's 1970s Saw, it's 2001 Saw, and the Crystal Method is playing in the background. It's
there was
2019
a 50s
Saw
version of the story, and the TV show stories do tie closer to each other, but they're not even directly connected, right? It's just more
So maybe we could pick it up with Juno Temple and is it Mark Hamm?
Mark Hamm, yes.
Ham.
Don Ham.
Don Ham. I think it's Don Ham.
Beyond Ham.
John Hamm.
But yeah, I think you could actually. That'd be interesting if you would do that and report back. Like you watch this, and if you like it, do you go back and then watch the earlier seasons, and how do those play out? That'd be interesting.
Maybe.
Well, the actors' strike has not been settled. I'm checking my phone for notifications. No, it has not been settled as we are recording this. Who knows? It may have been resolved by the time you hear this, but our job is to keep you up to date on the effects, and there are definitely effects. So here are a few dates that have been changed for movies. Disney delayed the live-action version of Snow White. It has moved from March 2024 to March 21st, 2025. Sci-fi animation Elio also got pushed off from March 2024 to June 13th, 2025. And Disney removed Magazine Dreams from its calendar. That was supposed to premiere December 8th. I think that's less to do with the strike and more to do with the fact that it stars Jonathan Majors, who is currently accused of assault and aggravated harassment. Majors has pleaded not guilty. Warner Brothers moved Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom 2 days from December 20th to December 22nd. They took it from a Wednesday premiere to a Friday premiere. And Wise Guys, starring Robert De Niro, has been renamed Alto Nights, which makes it sound like it's a saxophone group, and moved from November 2024 to February 2nd, 2024. So they actually took that one and moved it earlier.
I remember those days. It was trombone days and alto nights every day of the week.
It's my high school band story starring Robert De Niro. I don't know if any of us were planning on seeing any of these, but we do like to keep you up to date on the movies moving around. The Disney stuff seems like it might be actor strike related. The Warner Brothers stuff, not so much, huh?
Real quick, and sorry to put you on the spot, Tom. Do you happen to recall is the actors' strike pretty much about the same stuff that the writers' strike was about? Or
I mean, yes, broadly speaking, It is about what are the royalties, what are our rates,
Streaming
some things
shifting.
about AI that are probably not as important as they're wanting to make them, but they're using them as a wedge issue, et cetera, et cetera.
Lifetime likeness rights, all of that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Stuff like that, which actually, now I say that, I think with the writer's strike, it was maybe a little exaggerated. With the actor's strike, there's some real likeness, rights that aren't obvious that they'd probably like to get down on paper, which I think are worth putting down on paper if you're an actor, for sure. Finally, Allison, you have been playing with a cool new app that uses the movie database, TMDB, but you don't have to use their app. You're using the data from the movie database. It's called Call Sheet. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so I've never heard it abbreviated like that, by the way, themoviedb.org, to be careful on that. So Call Sheet was written by Casey Liss, who you may have heard of from the Accidental Tech podcast. And the goal he set out to achieve was like IMDb, only not horribly crapped up with ads. And he has achieved his goal. So this is an app that is really fast. It's written from the ground up for iOS and iPadOS, and it's there's no ads. So I think the cost is $9 a year or $1 a month. You can get 20 free searches to try it out if you want. It's got a really clean interface. You can search for people and movies and TVs and directors and actors and all that. When you tap on a person, you get a great big picture of them. Like I was trying to remember who Jonathan Major was, so I just tapped on Jonathan Major and I saw him in the app. And it's super clean. It's super quick. It also allows you you can look into things like trivia. It's got a section, you can jump into the Wikipedia page for it. You can go look at the website. You can see where to watch. So I use it when I want to figure out, and it takes that from, what's the website called? Wheretowatch.com or something?
Just Watch?
Just Watch.
Just Watch. Yeah, it gets that data from Just Watch. It's not always quite as good as the data I've gotten out of IMDb, but I can't stand IMDb anymore. I mean, it just really, really upsets me when I look it up and 98% of the page I'm looking at is covered with garbage that I don't want to see. And so anyway, I'm a huge fan. It supports family sharing. I don't think it's on Android, but it did let me know about themoviedb.org, which allows me to, now when I'm on my Mac, I can go look stuff up. Not as good as in Call Sheet, but he doesn't have a Mac app yet. So I love it so much. It's on my homepage, and I mean my homepage. because I use it all the time because I can never remember, like, who is that guy? Didn't I see that? Oh, you can also pin shows. Like if you're watching a series, you can pin it at the top. And that way, whenever you want to look somebody up on something you've been watching, you
It's
can
up
find
at
it.
the top. Easy. That's
Allison, you did something that I find myself doing when I get really excited about a particular app or property or structure is I just want to list all of the cool things. But if you wanted to reduce that to one unmet need that everybody hearing your voice, they don't even know that they need this. What is the one thing that this fulfills?
Look stuff up about movies and TV without crapped up ads.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That is the
Again,
elevator speech.
If you're confused, IMDb is the Internet Movie Database, and that's the one Amazon owns, and it's the one that Allison was describing as crapped up with ads.
Which used to be great.
TMDB is the movie database, themoviedb.org, and it is kind of an open platform that is not crapped up with ads.
Right.
Although technically IMDb is also an open platform because anybody can contribute to it.
It's so interesting because we're entering a phase where it's like, who owns facts? Like there is a fact of how much money a movie made or a fact of what its average reviews are and so on.
And there's some precedent law with fantasy sports on that, where the courts said, yeah, you can't copyright the facts. You can copyright the likenesses, you can copyright your logos, but the fact that such and such batter hit 10 balls out of 300 and that makes him a 100 hitter or whatever, I don't think I did the math right there, but 100 out of 300 makes him a 333 hitter, then yeah, that's a fact. You can't stop people from using stuff like that. Be interested to see that applied more broadly here. All right, well, we all like to watch stuff and then share the gems. That's why we call this segment Buried Treasure.
Most people want to know why they suddenly got rich.
Buried treasure.
Allison, people are gonna think I'm stealing your thunder here. I know you want to talk about Barbie, but what's interesting is not just that you watched it and what you thought of it, but how you were able to watch it.
Why, Tom, I bought the Ultra HD 4K version of the movie at like a store. I bought it at Best Buy. Physical
Wait a
media.
minute. Didn't we just do a story on this stuff?
They're selling them till the end of the year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I was sad to hear about that.
Allison walked in and bought it off the shelf. Yeah.
We really like having the physical media for the audio and video quality combined. We really like having the full res version of it. Steve also rips everything to Plex, so we have it available later and that sort of thing. A few interesting things about ripping it to Plex. This was the first time I bought an Ultra HD movie that didn't also come with a DVD copy. So he was unable to rip it originally with his Blu-ray burner or reader. And so he found this guy on the MakeMKV forums who buys Blu-ray or Ultra HD players and flashes them so that they work with Apple Silicon and will allow you to rip movies with them. And the guy charges like $20, and he buys one of the ones that he knows works really well, and he ships it to you. And so, like in less than 48 hours, Steve had one, and we were able to put this on our Plex server. So that was pretty cool. The other thing I do with the physical media is I normally import them into something called DVDpedia, which is an application for the Mac that's been around for, I'm thinking 20 years. I mean, it's old. It's been around a long time. And I went to download it to my newly refreshed Mac only to find out that the guy just abandoned the project. So now I'm in the process of exporting all the data from that into a CSV file, and I'm importing it into another database program I'm wild about called Under My Roof, which lets you inventory everything in your house. And one of the reasons I do this is because we have so many of these DVDs. I think it's 375. That's a fair amount of money if the house burns down, right? I'd like to have that for insurance purposes.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
I guess I'll confess to, hypothetically, imagine a 20 years younger version of me who was obsessed with ripping every single CD that he ever had. And then imagine that like a brick of CDs, about the size of a cinder block, burned down in a warehouse fire where hypothetically this person was married to an artist and everything burned down. Hypothetically, this person had insurance and collected thousands of dollars of insurance on the lost media and yet retained the MP3 copies. Hypothetically, where are we at on the ethics of that?
Well, one of the things that I learned when we had all of our jewelry stolen many years ago by TWA was the insurance company. I said, okay, here's all my receipts for the jewelry we lost. And the guy said, yeah, that's really cute. Show me pictures of you with it. That was something really important. So one of the things we do in Under My Roof in particular is we take pictures of stuff. Here I am with my new iPhone 15 in the box, and we just take these dorky pictures, but those are all stored in there in Under My Roof. And now we can do that with the DVDs as well. I do still have the Plex version. That's on a movie drive that's connected to my Synology, and a lot of my Synology stuff is backed up, but I'm pretty sure that movie drive is not, because I figure that's reproducible. And so I think it would burn down with the house, so I would have lost both. So my ethics are fine.
I think it is entirely ethical to claim the loss of your hard backups, because it is good backup procedure to have 3 copies of everything. One remotely digitally, one locally digitally, and in this case, one physically locally. And you've lost one of your backups. Not only that, but you've lost the legal basis for your backup.
Oh, good point.
And you can now no longer prove that you ripped this fair use because you don't have the original to show. Like, yes, I'm just making a backup of the one I own. So I think it's entirely ethical to say, well, yes, I do have copies of these, but I lost the originals and I need to replace those.
Would I be right also, Tom, in that legally it would be against the law for me to sell a duplication, an MP3 backup of any of those tracks? While it would have been totally legal to sell the used copy of the CDs. So I had material loss of the actual physical media.
That's right. You've lost value because it was illegal for you on right of first sale to sell the authorized copy of the CD, but it would be illegal for you to generate your own copies because those are not authorized copies.
Well, I'm going to take a hypothetical deep breath of relief right now, knowing that hypothetically that was a good thing to do.
Now, I know people who have ripped a DVD or probably more likely a CD and then saved the MP3 file and sold that for sale copy. And no matter what, that smells really bad.
That is actually unethical. You should then delete your MP3s because you no longer own the original copy that you're having a backup of. I want to go back to that drive that you buy from a third party. He modifies it somehow? Is that
he flashes it in some way. I don't have the details with me right now, but
I'm curious what that involves, because depending on how he does it, depends on whether that could cause a problem or not, right?
Oh, because he may be doing a reverse DMCA
Well, if he's
copy.
circumventing copyright protection in any way to do it, then that would cause a DMCA problem. But there are plenty of ways that he might not. He may just be taking software that isn't on there, but he knows works on that hardware and just putting it on there, in which case he's
This
fine.
is the sound of 3 people who desperately want to have a 3-hour conversation about precedent law going all the way back to the mp3.com case, but instead are going to keep the show moving forward.
No, Brian, where I was going with that is, if you want to do what Allison's doing, you probably want to make sure that you're not, that you're not getting into hot water. And I wouldn't want Allison, the person that Allison's buying it from, to get in.
But here's a question: would I be, or would he be?
He would be.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't think it was putting software on it, because it sounded like it was. Flashing it. Well, I suppose it's firmware at the firmware level.
Yeah, that's software. Firmware is software. So
firmware is.
All right, Brian, what have you been watching?
We'll talk about Rick and Morty in after talk later on, but I got my daughter to watch Little Shop of Horrors, and she was into it, and much to the chagrin of my wife, who doesn't like musicals, we've been singing all the songs and playing them nonstop. It was directed by Frank Oz, and I'll tell you what, man, watching the puppetry of Audrey 2, I still don't know how many of the tricks were done. I don't know how the lip syncing was done. It's incredible. It holds up. It's very worthy. It's great. Plus, Rick Moranis is a national treasure who I want to see more of. Please come back, Rick.
But do you have it on Blu-ray?
What are you, a cop?
According to Call Sheet, this was December 19th, 1986, has a rating of PG-13 and a score of 69%.
Oh, very nice. I got a couple of things I want to mention. One is streaming the World Series. Streaming the World Series, kind of interesting because in the championship series in baseball, the National League Championship is on TBS. The American League is on Fox. I could watch the National League Championship on HBO Max, aka Max. For the American League Championship, I had to use DirecTV Stream because it's only available through Fox, and Fox doesn't have a streaming platform that you can subscribe to directly. Same for the World Series. Got to watch it on DirecTV Stream. I could use YouTube TV or Hulu Live or one of those, but I have to have a cable replacement in order to watch the World Series. I feel like that is increasingly feeling antiquated in this day and age, that you don't have another option for that. I also wanted to follow up on Duna, which I was watching on Netflix, and I mentioned earlier on Cordkillers. It's the story about a singer who quits singing and is living in the basement apartment of this place, and a guy who's a college student moves in and doesn't really know who she is, and they have this interesting interaction because she's famous, but she's also trying to hide, and she thinks he's a fan, but he's not. I loved the first half of this TV show because it was subverting my expectations constantly. It was always showing me like, this isn't a simple love story. This isn't even a simple love triangle. This is a really interesting story about human relationships and what is friendship and what is fame and how do they intersect. And then towards the end, the last couple episodes, I felt like, it's getting a little too simple. It's getting a little too obvious, and maybe this isn't as complex as they led me to believe. And then the ending won me back 100%, 100,000%. I love the way it ended. So if any of that sounds intriguing to you, catch it on Netflix. It's called Doona, Doona.
But would
Bryce, what should we be on the
like
lookout for? Oh, sorry, Allison. Yes, go
But
ahead.
would children like the romance of that time?
No, the 13 to 24-year-olds will hate it. Don't watch it if you're one of them. Okay. Bryce, what should we be on the lookout for?
Hey, we got an email from John. John writes, howdy, thank you guys for the great show on Saturday. I had a great experience that I thought other people might find interesting. I went to my local theater and saw the Metropolitan Opera live in HD. The opera that I saw was Dead Man Walking. It was fantastic. The experience was different than going to the Lincoln Center. The atmosphere and sound were not as all-engulfing, but there were close-ups and backstage interviews. They also have recorded versions available on their website, metopera.org, for a price. Thank you, John. That's cool. I have seen like the Fathom event ads for these. I didn't realize these are all totally live, direct from the Met. Sometimes I guess they have a rerun, but that in itself is really great. I mean, we've been talking about the concert movies between Taylor Swift and Beyonce the past couple of weeks. This is very much in that same line. And they do have a streamer. It's $15 a month, or you can get a reduced price if you are an annual member of the Met. But they've got a bunch of pre-recorded productions that you can stream already. So thank you, John. If you've got something we should be on the lookout for, please email it to us. That email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. Thank you.
Brian, do you know that computers are technology?
What? I've heard this rumor, and I want to settle some, misinformation. They're not just technology. They're the best technology. And the best of the best comes from our friends over at doghousesystems.com/rogue. Spell it right, ROGUE. They'll give you an SSD drive when you buy one. You'll be keeping us in business because all of our equipment is loaned by them. Thank you, Doghouse Systems.
All right, so you knew that one. Do you know all of the ins and outs and implications and legal justifications for President Biden's AI regulations?
If I did, what's something I might say to you?
You might say, of course, Tom, I do know that because I subscribe to your newsletter at techtom.substack.com. That's right. every day of the week, Monday through Friday. You will get a breakdown of what I consider the most important tech stories of the day, a little bit of the facts that are important to understand them, and my opinions on them. These are things sometimes that don't even make it into Daily Tech News Show that I'm like, keep an eye on this. This is an interesting trend. Not a lot to talk about here yet, but you're going to feel smarter if you know about it. It is a subscription newsletter. It's free on Thursdays. If you just want to try it out, you can try it out for free. And if you like it, you can pay to subscribe and get it every day in your inbox. That is techtom.substack.com.
I love that we get like a peek inside your brain. It's incredible.
It is literally the first thing I do in the morning is like brain dump. Like, here are the stories that are catching my eye. Boom. There you go. All right. There's a lot of stuff out there, so we better start scanning the horizon.
Send a scanning to avoid.
Scanning the horizon!
Apple has finally followed the trend of other streaming services, eggs and gasoline, and raised its prices. Apple TV Plus service in the U.S. rises from $6.99 a month to $9.99 a month. Apple also raised the price of Apple News, Apple Arcade, Apple One. News subscribers pay the new rate now. Existing subscribers will see the price increase sometime in the next 30 days, whenever their renewal date is. So yeah, it's done now. Inflation has come for everyone, Brian.
Well, I wonder how soon the inflation of difficulty of disengaging with the service is going to come for us, right? Right now, I feel like Apple's pretty good about, like, you could just scroll down and be like,
most of them are pretty good. Yeah,
I don't remember that. I don't remember that. I don't remember that. But soon it'll come for all of us.
Allison,
I think where they've got you on Apple is with Apple One, where you've got your HomeKit secure video, and you've got your gaming, and you've got your TV, and you've got all this stuff bundled together. All of a sudden, you have to start looking more closely at what to give up. But a lot of this bothers me, that these were pretty steep price hikes. The one that doesn't bother me is the Apple TV one, because when they first came out with Apple TV Plus, we all said, "Wow, there's hardly anything on here, but at least it's cheap." And now it's a serious contender. I mean, it is in a different league than it was when it was first introduced.
I mean, it was so cheap, it was free for a little bit there.
If you bought a device, yeah, they gave you a year for free a lot of times. And you could still get it paid for through carriers. I don't think this price increase hits you if you're having Verizon or T-Mobile or somebody pay for it. At least for now. We'll see how long they continue to do that.
Bloomberg's Mark Gurman says that Apple plans to redesign its Apple TV app as part of a tvOS update in December. The new Apple TV app will add a left side navigation for video categories and become the sole home for all of your video, rented, purchased, or streamed content of all varieties. The separate movies and TV shows apps on tvOS will be removed, as will video sections on other mobile apps. This sounds to me like a hooray, here's a thing. But there's a deeper story behind the scenes, is what it sounds like.
It's kind of like a cleanup. I forgot that at tvOS still had the separate movie and TV show apps. Allison, did you still use those?
Yeah, I find that real confusing, especially when I go to my desktop or on my iPad to try to watch something. Watching it on the Apple TV, it seems fairly obvious because it's kind of at the top, and you don't notice the other leftover vestigial pieces that are around. I do still find it really interesting that when I do watch shows through Apple TV, then I don't know where they are. And I still wonder why the people who produce these things think that's okay. Like, we're rewatching Family Ties right now from the 1990s, and we have no idea where the show actually is. And accidentally, once in a while, we'll find it, like wherever it is, HBO Max, let's say, and we'll find it in there, and it doesn't know where we are, and we're really confused. We're like, oh yeah, we're not supposed to know where it is.
Because it's in multiple places. Yeah. Interesting. Spectrum Sportsnet is a channel only available on either cable TV or DirecTV Stream in the Los Angeles area. It's also available in parts of Nevada and Hawaii. It's the channel that carries the Los Angeles Lakers basketball games. So DirecTV Stream is kind of your only option if you don't want to get cable and you want to watch the Lakers. That just changed in an interesting way. You can now subscribe to the Lakers games through something they're calling Spectrum Sportsnet Plus, but that service is only available in the NBA's app or at NBA.com.
Unbelievable.
So
No. I feel like we can add
Spectrum
even
Sports
more
Net
letters
Plus.
and symbols.
Hold on. Everybody just relax. Let's get the rest of the facts out here. It's called Spectrum Sports Net Plus, but it's being operated by the NBA. It costs $20 a month or $180 for the season. And the NBA is managing the access, not Charter, which owns Spectrum Sportsnet. Okay, go ahead.
I mean, I think you got our oh my's.
Yeah.
Like that's really all we had.
I'm looking this up. So the NBA app, could you put the NBA app, say, on your Apple TV and get to this now where you didn't used to be able to if you didn't have
had said
DirecTV?
Roku or Fire TV or Android TV or Xbox or PlayStation, I could say yes, but not Apple TV for whatever reason. It's probably one of those things where it's going to come soon enough, but
It might have
yes.
AirPlay because it does have iPhone.
I'm sure it
iPad
does.
support.
I'm sure it does have AirPlay because they do have iPhone and iPad. That's a really good point, Bryce. But yeah, this is meant to be like, yes, watch it on your TV. You don't have to pay for cable. It's just the Lakers. It's nothing else, but it's $20 a month just for the Lakers. I mean, that's
the part that makes me angry enough is if it was my team, air quotes right here, then I'd pay it and not even think twice about it, you know?
yeah.
How long is the season?
DirecTV Stream is like $40 a month. And if you're like, I just want the Lakers, I don't want anything else, I don't need any of those other streaming options, this might be worth it.
How long is the season? Because it's also, it says in the show notes, $180 for the season. Is the season 9 months
The season is like 500 days in a year. I don't know how, but no, they are literally off from May until September. Like
this season is from October 2023, which just started, to April 2024.
There you go. May to September. Nice.
Wait a minute. 500 days is 17 months. That's more than a year.
Yeah, I think that's
I know.
the joke
I was
he was
joking.
making.
Oh.
Amazon has Thursday Night Football.
I wanted to do the math. How many months is that, Bryce?
Let's see. Let me do some basic math on air. October,
Under pressure.
November, December, January,
All
February,
talking.
March, April. 6 months.
Yeah.
6 months. So $120 if you go monthly,
postseason.
$180 if you want to get the whole
If you pay for the season, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
Okay.
Amazon has Thursday Night Football as an exclusive this season for the very first time, and reported viewership rose 25% over last year when it was simulcast along with broadcast and others. This helped boost Amazon's advertising revenue by 26%. Amazon plans to bring ads to Prime Video too, so expect that ad revenue number to keep rising. Tom, it's almost as though we're just going back to cable. Just regular.
Why is this going back to cable? I don't understand.
Well, just everybody consolidating, everything going back to just go. Don't you just want one bundle to get everything and you don't mind ads anymore?
I mean, I'm not seeing that with this one myself.
Oh,
This one is just like, oh, Amazon finally took it over instead of simulcasting, and now it's making more money off it.
Save it.
All right. Comcast saw its ad revenue fall 8% on the year, but Peacock raised subscribers 4 million to reach 28 million. Peacock revenue rose 64% on the year as well. And just for the record, Comcast's cable pay TV business lost 490,000 subscribers to fall to 14.5 million.
Crunchyroll is now available as a channel add-on for Amazon Prime Video at $7.99 a month. $9.90 a month Mega Fan tier lets you download shows for offline viewing.
And we have a little more about Crunchyroll in our email, which we call Chatter.
Got mail.
All right, kick us off. Allison has a question for the audience. Allison, what is your question that you would like help with?
Well, the last time I was on the show, I was talking about how excited I was that I'd figured out how to use the Channels app to create a home DVR on my network attached storage on my Synology in order to record TV from YouTube TV in our case, but you could use it with whatever service you want. And it's been working great, except out of the blue, NBC changed something and it broke the connection through TV Everywhere. So for the past year, we've had to use the YouTube TV interface for all of our NBC products, MSNBC, whatever NBC products we're watching. We hate the scrubber on the YouTube TV service with the passion of 7 fiery suns. So is there a better service than YouTube TV for the scrubbing? Because we would give it up if we could have different scrubbing, but we're worried that might just be you're scrubbing something that's out on the internet, and that delay, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if any scrubbing that I do on DirecTV Stream is worth the extra cost, because it's quite a bit of an extra cost for DirecTV Stream.
I'd be like, you're trying to scroll past a commercial and you can see the little preview window and you hit play and all of a sudden it just jumps back.
Yeah,
like
no, same thing.
seconds.
Same thing with DirecTV. Yeah, if anybody out there has a solution for this, cordkillers@gmail.com. We'll pass it along to Allison.
Just make sure it doesn't involve the word piracy.
Yeah, legal solutions.
Not
only.
interested.
Thank you. Yeah.
If there's a way around the NBC problem, that'd be even better to get it back into channels, because channels is delightful.
Yeah. I think that's probably the more likely is somebody's like, oh, I know a trick for that. So send that to us as well. Also, Sean the Dad, we see you. To summarize Sean the Dad's email, he got Fox and ESPN because he thought that was going to cover all the ways they broadcast the New York Giants. He's a New York Giants football fan living in Connecticut. And then they did some weird stuff where they started showing the Giants games on CBS, which they aren't supposed to do, the way that the broadcast structures are scheduled. He says, there's not a technical barrier to stream the game that is geolocated to be a local game for this media market. Yet I keep missing out on watching the Giants. Sean the Dead, yes. Someday blackouts will go away and this will all just be a painful memory. Andrew says, in a recent episode, you talked about how Crunchyroll was launching a fast channel. Prior to last May, most of the content on Crunchyroll was available for free on its own website and with ads. Generally, most shows were available this week, but with new episodes delayed 1 week. So while I agree their move to fast is hopefully a good thing, it's a bit more of a return to their old model than a radical new shift. In my experience, their apps and ad experience left a lot to be desired: lag, slowness, repeated ads, etc. So maybe taking advantage of existing fast platforms will help with that. Thank you, Andrew, for sending that along.
I have noticed, and this is, again, pure speculation on my part, but it's like the target audience for a lot of the Crunchyroll programming tends to be teenagers, like my kids. Boy, oh boy, do I not really mind, as long as they're not pirating, how many ads they're watching, so long as they're not bothering me asking for money at all times. So maybe it's a smart move for them.
And then for the Spoilerin Time rewatch, we've been taking suggestions from folks for what we should do when we're done with Miami Vice, which we will be in a couple of weeks here. And thank you to Pete, who likes the idea of us doing a MASH rewatch and identified all the transition episodes for us where main characters arrived or left, and they changed the cast. Thank you for sending that, Pete.
Yeah, I like all of these weird divisions people have made. You know, we have done, you know, where the guest stars are. We've talked about doing the Bryce slice, the beginning and end of entire episodes or shows. This was a new one that I rather like transitionary moments where it's like, I suspect that we're not going to feel what we're supposed to be feeling every time during one of these.
Probably not, yeah. But it's interesting nonetheless. Allison, you are awesome, and it's always awesome having you on the show with us. Tell folks about the other amazing stuff you do.
You can find everything good I do at podfeet.com. And in there, you'll find my flagship show, the NosillaCast, which is a technology geek podcast with an ever so slight Apple bias that has been running for 18 and a half years.
Fantastic.
Haven't missed an episode.
That's amazing. That's an incredible streak. Congratulations on that. That's awesome. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. I reckon we'll talk to you next time. Oh, we're not done yet, Brian.
What? We have more?
Yeah, look at all those names scrolling by.
Tom, we just did so many hours of insights into the world of cord killing.
But you know why we were able to do all those hours? It's these people right here. These are some of the greatest people of all time.
Oh, better than Abraham Lincoln?
I believe who's on this list.
Better than Abraham Lincoln's ghost?
Yes.
Better than Richard Nixon?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Hard to conceive, but I am not a crook or a liar when I tell you they are.
Why are all of these names either future or past presidents? It's really weird.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Presidents, everybody.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.